This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Hey everybody, welcome to the WrestlePalooza event here, the preview and prediction show that is a little early this week. It's actually a couple days early, 3 days early compared to normal. I usually do it on Friday, but as I mentioned earlier in the week, I will not be around and available on Friday as I'm traveling out of town for a couple nights, and I won't be able to record. So this is your preview and prediction show. Might have an email snuck in there as well for your mailbag. I apologize for those that send in their emails late. If you do, I apologize. I'll get to them on my next show, I promise. So you can continue to send them and send your voicemails as well. You can attach a voicemail right to the email if you want. That's an option. So what do I think is going to happen at WrestlePalooza? Well, before we get there, I do want to point out the interaction between Triple H and HBK that was on NXT last night. I saw it by accident, and I thought it was some kind of joke. I thought it was AI. And what happened generally is Triple H saying he may not be done in the ring. What if I come back and they're facing off? And it didn't seem like he was joking. And then Charlotte interrupts and Alexa Bliss interrupts. And so I don't think that Triple H can be serious. Now, if the Saudi Arabian government has its way, they'll be able to play God and have whoever they want to come back, and they'll write however many zeros on a check that they need to convince whoever to come back and risk their livelihood or come out of retirement, as we saw Shawn Michaels get bought out, that we're not supposed to remember, in the most disastrous tag team match in modern history with DX versus the Brothers of Destruction a number of years ago at, I think it was Crown Jewel, the beloved Crown Jewel. But here's what I will say. So if Triple H is actually going to come back, which I don't think he is, but if he does somehow and he's able to get cleared health-wise, I mean, that would be a big deal. That'd be a big deal. I don't want to see him face Shawn Michaels, that's for sure. But if he does come back, and I don't think he will, that would be a huge deal. But I don't think it's the right move. I don't think the fans want to see it, but we shall see. The one thing I'll say about WrestleMania 43 as well, as much as we are all just giving a audible groan to the fact that it's in Saudi Arabia and WWE is going to be laughing all the way to the bank while we are complaining, is that Saudi Arabia, as I just mentioned, will write as many zeros on a check as they need to get whoever they want and as many big stars and past stars as they need to come to WrestleMania. They've shown that with the Greatest Royal Rumble. They've shown that with Crown Jewel and other events. They're not afraid of money because they have an endless supply of it. And many people can be bought out, and WWE is all about, specifically TKO, is all about squeezing every dollar out of every fan that they can at this point. So before we get to the preview and predictions, one thing, email, because we do have one. And again, if you send in yours, I will read them in my next recording that is live, which I don't know when that'll be. That is to be determined. I will be putting up a retro show between now and Friday, of course, as I normally do with some 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, that kind of thing, which is kind of interesting, doing the reposting of shows that I used to do, because some of them are so damn long. I'm like, how did I have 2.5 hours out of nowhere? I don't know how that happened, but yeah, I had co-hosts, which is really something I do miss as well. I miss co-hosting, and my schedule is just too erratic, but maybe that'll change moving forward. So let's get to our email. And this is Maxman243 from Spotify. He says, I wanted to ask where Gunther's been. I think after the CM Punk Seth Rollins match, it's the perfect time to bring Gunther back and face Seth for the belt. I don't know if they should turn him babyface or not. So Gunther has a nose issue. Remember, he was written off of TV ever since he lost the world title to CM Punk at SummerSlam this past year. He was written off because of a nose injury during the match. And apparently his nose has been giving him legitimate trouble, though, for a while. and he's getting surgery on his nose, which is good. I mean, and it shouldn't be too long before we see him back. I don't know the timetable for proper healing to be able to get back into the ring. I wouldn't think again that it's too long of a return. I mean, you don't need to condition your nose to get back in the ring. It's not a joint. It's not a muscle. It's just cartilage and bone that needs to heal on your face. So it's kind of a great place for it to be for a shorter timetable for a return. So I think that it'll be sooner than later, and it could be as soon as WrestlePalooza, but more likely next month is my best guess. But Gunther is missed, no doubt. Do I think they should turn him babyface? Probably not. Not yet. Don't forget, Brock Lesnar, I'm sure, is at some point in his sights. And if Gunther and Brock Lesnar face off, right now I think people would cheer for Gunther. So we'll see when that actually gets put up and when that happens. Again, I think the big payoff for Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania will be some kind of interaction with all the Paul Heyman guys of CM Punk, Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, all under the same umbrella, all cornering Paul Heyman. Seth Rollins may be thrown in there at some point, just as that interaction of Brock Lesnar for the first time interacting with Paul Heyman, but also the connection with the Tribal Chief and Paul Heyman, and the friendship between CM Punk and Paul Heyman, and then the newly formed friendship of the Oracle and Seth Rollins. It's a hell of a dynamic. Where does Paul Heyman's loyalties truly lie? That said, that is kind of the exact same story as last year, and I don't know if they can really repeat that, even if they add the ingredient as big as Brock Lesnar. It's going to be kind of difficult to do. So they may just have it be a quick moment with Brock and Paul Heyman, but there's certainly something bigger you could do with it. It would just be, unfortunately, kind of a repeat of last year with the addition of Brock Lesnar. But all right, let's continue with your email here. On another note, I think what they're doing with Asuka and Io is dumb. I know they're not fluent in English, but at least slow down a little. They talk so fast, it's annoying. That's all I got, except one thing that's been on my mind since started watching. How did you get your Drew to say your intro, or is it AI? Keep up the great work, Maxman from Spotify. Well, thank you, Maxman from Spotify, for your support. And no, it's not AI. There's something called Cameo that a few years ago, 4 years ago, maybe more, we at that point in time did pay Drew McIntyre to give a shout out to some people on our team, and at the same time also say what he says at the beginning of the show. So, but that said, it does kind of make me feel like I need to refresh the intro. It's getting a little bit old. I've put it up hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. I think it's time to give it a little bit of a new coat of paint, and that I can have AI do, and I may remove the Drew McIntyre deal. As fun as that's having it, in the beginning and kind of legitimizing our show, I do think that it's time for a refresh of our jingle, or have no jingle at all. We don't have to have an intro. So as far as Asuka and Io go, I think that it needs to come to some kind of conclusion, and I think we're getting close to that, because Kairi is the lapdog for Io, or rather, Kairi's the lapdog for Asuka. Io is the one that's the voice of reason, kind of standing up to Asuka, but Asuka is eventually going to turn. At least that's what's projected by most. So there's a lot going on here. At the same time, Asuka and Io would be a hell of a fun program. Even though we have Stephanie McCoy taking on Io, and we'll get to that match in a minute, I think that Asuka could have something to say in that match. The bigger match to me is Asuka and Io Sky, and Kairi Sane will probably not be involved at any point unless it's just on the side of the ring, and Asuka throws treats down to her and she can get a snack. That's the way that Io Sky. I'm sorry, that's the way that Kairi Sane has been treated, is essentially a dog, and I don't like it. I don't like Kairi Sane just being this kind of subservient, little girl to Asuka. It's not my favorite, but I get where they're going. I know what they're seemingly the story they're trying to tell is that it's going to come to blows with Io and Asuka. If you can't tell too, I also have a cold, very poorly timed cold that I'm trying to truck through here. All right. Thank you, Max Man. Let's get to the dang card. Let's get to the card for WrestlePalooza. And we're going to start with the Usos and Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. Could see the return of the Wise Man here. Seems possible. I don't think Seth Rollins is going to get involved. He's got a big match later in the night. This would, in a way, kind of be beneath him, even though he's got his guys. His guys need to stand on their own. And Paul Heyman, even being at ringside, he never really has a big factor in the outcome of the match, typically, at least not as of late. So even if Paul Heyman's there, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference from the standpoint of who's going to win. Who's going to win? This is an interesting one, because who Jey Uso was talking to on the phone could be revealed here. And Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker have been getting victories fairly regularly on Raw, getting some momentum, getting some heat. This is going to be number one. Before I get to the actual finish and who I think is going to win, I think this is going to be a hell of a matchup. It's going to be a hell of a tag team matchup that could steal the show if they are given enough time. It's a matchup that is going to be intense. It's going to have a lot of false finishes, 47 super kicks, probably a spear or two kicked out of. That's kind of the name of the game today for wrestling matches, especially for younger guys that just want to get the crowd going and get them excited. It's they lean on that false finish to a kind of nauseating degree. But that said, all four men are incredibly capable, professionals and young guys on one side, veterans on the other. And I think you're going to have, this is a tough one. You can make a case for both, but I really believe the Usos will probably win this because of whoever Jey Uso is talking on the phone with helps them out. I mean, I'm not sure who that person is. Some of you are speculating. I mean, what if it's Chris Jericho? I know that there's a lot of memes going around about Chris Jericho returning, and there is some speculation that he could return. It's kind of a weird program for him to just come back to. But somebody like that, where it helps, the Usos are helped out by somebody we're not thinking of. And I think the Usos win, but again, tough matchup to really say confidently, determinatively who's going to win. Io Sky, Stephanie Vaquer, or Vaquer. This one, a little bit easier, because I think Stephanie ends up winning here. And the reason is she'll be world champion. The reason I'm saying that is she's a fresh face. You have Asuka, who is certainly out there to potentially screw Io, either very blatantly, or it looks like she's trying to help her and ends up screwing Io accidentally, or it looks some kind of variation in between. We have also seen Io Sky as champion, and as fun as that is, and she is a hell of a champion, and she has really shown every time she gets in the ring, every single time you just go, oh my God, you just forget how good she is. And then she starts wrestling and you're 5 minutes in, you're like, oh my God, yeah, I get it. She's incredible. Stephanie, though, if you want to put a stamp on somebody and get them going, what better way to give her get her going than make her world champion? It may seem too soon. I don't think so. I'm going to go with Stephanie Vaquer here. I know that Io Sky in a lot of circles is the favorite because Stephanie doesn't really have a ton of momentum. She's got a personality, but she hasn't really entrenched or connected with the fans yet. But you know what? It doesn't always have to be somebody entrenched to win a world title. Sometimes you can do things a little bit off brand. And having Stephanie Vaquer win here would be a great way to get her going and have the fans go, whoa, wow. Okay, we haven't seen her as world champion before. What's this going to be like? The other side of the coin is, well, Io is champion. You could have Asuka, trying to help Io so that she gets a world title shot. So again, I feel a little bit more confident, although not a slam dunk on this, that Stephanie Vaquer is going to win this. I'd say about for 55-45 that Stephanie Vaquer is going to win. John Cena and Brock Lesnar. Okay, this one's also difficult. This is a night of about half the card's difficult, half the card is stay the hell away from, or rather, half the card is stay away from money-wise, half the card is you pretty much lock it up and throw away the key in terms of who's going to win. This is one I would be very weary of who could win, because both men have a case to win. You can make a case for both. Brock Lesnar returning, first match back in how many years? He's got the allegations swirling around him that people aren't forgetting, but They're still cheering for him. You have John Cena, who's retiring in 3 months, but Brock Lesnar doesn't need the rub. John Cena doesn't need the rub. These are two veterans at the end of their career. And my guess is Brock Lesnar wins. The reason is Brock Lesnar is going to be here a little bit longer than John Cena is. Yeah, that said, John Cena has gotten his ass kicked every single time that he's gotten in contact with Brock since SummerSlam. And John Cena could use a little momentum going into the final stretch, of his career. This is tough. I mean, I just said Brock Lesnar, but I could see John Cena pulling it out here. This is right down the line, 50-50. I hate to cop out on this. A literal flip of the coin, because they're not positioning, I don't think, either man to become any kind of champion. As I said, they're both veterans at the end of their careers. Nobody's giving anybody a rub. Nobody needs the victory more than the other. This is hard as hell. Anybody that bets on this match and wins, God bless you. There's a lot of people that put money on this at Vegas and other places, privately, private pools, whatever. Good luck. Godspeed. Because there are very strong cases to be made for both men. A literal flip of the coin. I'm going to go with Brock Lesnar just because I said I was going to earlier, and I'll stick with my original pick. A physical match. One that, again, I think is going to go longer than people expect, because these are two guys, as I said, that this is the last time they're ever going to be in a match together, I would presume. In John Cena's final 6 appearances, it's very unlikely that he has another match with Brock Lesnar. He's got too many other guys that he could potentially have matches with, and this is it for these two. There's no follow-up match. This is it. So that said, probably Brock in a 15-minute back and forth. Damn well. How about, more interesting than the actual finish, because it's such a toss-up that it's scary, is how many kickouts of finishes are there going to be? I just blame the younger guys for using it as a crutch. But this is also a match that is set up for F5, kick out, FU, kick out, 3 FUs, 3 avalanche FUs, and a knife to the heart, kick out by Brock Lesnar. Yeah, it's going to be one of those deals where it's just a barrage of kickouts of finishes. Slower paced, no doubt, and I like that. But I'm going to go with Brock. You could easily say John Cena as well, though. All right, this one's a slam dunk. Throw away the key. CM Punk and AJ Lee take on Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch in a tag team match. We all know who's winning this, and that's CM Punk and AJ Lee. If you heard my review yesterday for Running at Raw, you kind of know where I'm going to go with this. I haven't really changed my thinking. CM Punk and AJ Lee are a power couple. They're one of the most desirable wrestling couples that people have been fantasizing about to come back for literally 10 years to WWE. We never thought we'd see it. And here we are. And Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch don't need the victory here. AJ Lee and CM Punk do. There's no title on the line. It's pride only. I think AJ Lee pins Becky Lynch to get the victory. However, as I said yesterday, and this is going to be what's coming off the match in the semi-main event, I very much think that you're going to have, after Becky Lynch is pinned by AJ Lee, we're going to have Seth Rollins stomp AJ Lee and run out of the ring. Now we're going to see all the typical abuse, and I made a whole video and reel on this that I'm, angered a lot of people as predicted, about the fact that the men are being just completely emasculated by the women on a weekly basis, and it's getting worse. About they're not allowed to retaliate because they're women. We have, again, I think a match that set up really well. Quality of the match is going to be very high. CM Punk and Seth Rollins have worked so much together that it's getting kind of crazy, and we're going to see more after this because, as I said, I think Seth Rollins stomps AJ Lee, and we get a continuing of this feud, because CM Punk is then going to chase Seth Rollins one-on-one for the world title, and then AJ Lee and Becky Lynch can then fight one another one-on-one at the next PLE for the women's Intercontinental title. So I think that's where they're going after this tag team match. Really kind of a dream tag team match in a lot of ways. after this, these two couples are going to split off into one-on-ones in the next PLE. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to hear the reaction when Seth Rollins stomps AJ Lee and the announcers just go ballistic. Oh my God, that's disgusting. Can you believe that? Yeah, actually I can, Michael Cole. AJ Lee is very much deserving of that. As much as I like AJ Lee as a wrestling character, storyline wise, she 100% deserves that stomp, just as Becky Lynch deserves to eat about 3 GTSs. AJ Lee deserves a stomp. She's the one that put her hands on Seth Rollins first. Don't bite off more than you can chew. So she's going to eat the mat. And I hope she does. I will forego my love for AJ Lee's wrestling character. Notice I'm saying wrestling character, not actual person, because I disagree with her on nearly everything personally. But the wrestling character AJ Lee, as much love as I have for her and nostalgia I have for her, I'm looking forward to seeing Seth Rollins make her eat the mat after the match, because she'll get the victory over Becky, as I said. Many of you are like, oh my God, he won't stop talking about this. He's sick. No, I'm a big fan of justice, especially when it can be controlled and it's very safe and it's not real, right? That's the best kind, when no one's actually being hurt. Don't forget that. All right, so let's get to the final match here, the main event. The Undisputed WWE Championship, Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre. This one's going to go a long way. I think 25 minutes, 22, 23, 24, 25 minutes. And this one is going to be a blast because what more can you say about in-ring with, Drew and Cody? Is this Drew's moment? I don't think so. Cody, is still fresh off of a victory here. I don't think he wins. I'm sorry. I don't think that Cody loses the belt, but it could be because of Randy Orton. Randy Orton and Drew are still they're intertwined in their own program. Randy Orton could show up. He could turn on Cody. Maybe he turns on Cody here. Something big needs to happen because WWE has to make an impact here, has to make noise. This isn't a time for, maybe in a little while, WWE will, they'll bring back this person, that person. I think Randy Orton could turn here. And perhaps he could cost Cody. I'm not saying there's no chance of Drew winning. In fact, if I was in charge of this, I would have Drew win. With no nonsense of, he's a 5-minute champion and then someone cashes in or some technicality reverses the decision. None of that crap. Drew just straight up wins. That's what I would want to happen. But you could have Randy Orton be the deciding factor where you think that he's going to attack Drew because of everything that's been going on lately, but he actually attacks Cody, costs Cody the match, and then off we go. Could be. Or after the match, we have Cody retain, and then that's when the RKO comes. Could. But I think Randy's going to have a big say in this, whether it's during or after the match. That is, I think, a pretty strong possibility. And as I just said, this is not a PLE that's a B-level PLE. Sure, it's a PLE that we've never seen before. It's the first one on the ESPN network, on ESPN Plus rather, which means they need to put their best foot forward. It's not the next PLE, that's when we'll have this person return, that person return. No, they're a business. And if they are more hyper-focused than ever on maximizing their money, then they're going to want this to be the biggest PLE they've had all summer. That's what they should be aiming for. I don't think it will be, but that should be their goal because they need to make a splash. This is the first PLE. They want big numbers. They want a lot of attention. They want social media buzzing about what's going on. Now, is there a chance, dare I say, the final boss shows up? I know no one's even floating that. I'm only going to say no because The Rock is about my size right now. He looks emaciated with how much weight. He dropped like 60 pounds for a movie role. He looks sick. So unless he gained that muscle back, I don't want to see him. It looks like he's going through chemo treatments. And I don't mean that to be funny. I mean that in like an actual way. I mean that in a serious way. He looks sick. So until The Rock regains his muscle, I don't think he wants us to see him either. And that's going to take some time. I mean, 60 pounds of muscle, even for a guy that big, takes a lot of time to put back. Because it's not like he dropped body fat. He didn't have any. Yeah, maybe like a pound. So 59 pounds of muscle, 1 pound of body fat. It's going to take some time for him to build that back. Now, he could come out and, not take off his shirt or something. And why am I even suggesting this? Well, Cody Rhodes and The Rock have not exactly been friends. If you remember back to Elimination Chamber, the infamous Elimination Chamber, you had The Rock be the one to propagate the whole Cena heel turn that we never got an explanation for, and is one of the most egregious storyline holes in wrestling history. But I expect that Cody Rhodes probably wins this. Drew wins, great, but I expect Cody Rhodes to probably retain here, and Drew to come within an eyelash, as he always does, of becoming champion, but not quite getting there. Again, possibly because of Orton, but they got to have something huge planned for this to get the general public buzzing. So, all right, everybody, thanks so much for listening. A bit of an abbreviated preview show compared to normal, but time and other life obligations at this point. So feel free to email me, mailbag@wwepodcast.com. I will get to it. I promise I will get to it on a later show. I'll also combine that probably with a review and reaction show of WrestlePalooza that comes to us this Saturday. Follow me on X at wrestling_audio, or go ad free at patreon.com/WWE podcast. Thanks everybody for listening. Of course, take care. I'll talk to you next time.